Ons gevoer met Nuusdag Perspektief. Nou, perlemoenstropery in Suid-Afrika en die onwettige handel daarin verdien vir smokkelaars miljoene rande. Maar ons weet bitter min van die binnewerking van die donker onderwêreld. Desperate jong mense wat soms geen ander keuse het as om hulle brood en botter op hierdie manier te verdien nie. Nou, 'n man wat vanaand onder die skuilnaam Abader by ons aansluit, het 15 jaar lank sy geld op die manier verdien, totdat hy vir die soveelste keer in hegtenis geneem is en in die tronk sy lewensverhaal begin neerpen het. Hy het nou sy storie met Kimon de Greeff in 'n boek saamgestel. Die boek se naam is Poacher. Nou, hulle deel vanaand dele daarvan met ons en dit is uit vrees vir sy veiligheid dat hy vermom is en nie sy identiteit bekend gaan maak nie. Meneere, baie dankie dat julle ingekom het en Shahood, baie dankie dat jy ingestem het om met ons te praat vanaand. Now, just very briefly, Kimon, Shahood, how did the two of you meet? Kimon, we start with you.
I've been writing about abalone poaching for about 5 or 6 years. I did a master's in conservation, got interested in this, ended up writing my thesis on abalone poaching, became a journalist afterwards, reached the point where I wanted to write a book about poaching. I think it's a big, important story that's in the news all the time, but that the deeper story was kind of getting missed. At exactly the same time, give or take a few weeks, Shahood wrote me an email and said that he had written a book in jail and wanted to collaborate with someone to finish it. So last April we met up and decided to work together.
Okay. Shahood, so ons het nou min of meer 'n idee hoe julle twee mekaar ontmoet het, maar hoe het jy betrokke geraak by hierdie kom ons noem dit nou maar smokkelary van
I was introduced to abalone poaching in early 90s by a white Afrikaner guy. He asked me one day, he said, "You working?" I said, "No, I'm not working. Can you swim? You know how to swim?" I said, "Yeah, okay." And he said, "Okay, come, let's go." And then I went with him to the water, and he showed me what abalone looked like, and we started taking abalone off. But this was really in the early 90s. There were no real strict laws or penalties on abalone poaching. And it wasn't full-scale poaching. We just used to go if we needed money. We'd go maybe a few times a week whenever conditions allowed. And didn't last very long because he disappeared and I lost contact with him and I didn't continue going on with this. But then in 2002 I was introduced to through a friend of mine. He said, "Look, I need to drive these 3 guys around. They're divers, take them wherever they need to be, and if they're going to dive abalone sometimes late at night, I'm going to just drive them around. I get paid." So I get paid good money, sometimes 1,000 rand a night or so, like that. And then afterwards I just started diving myself. I got the opportunity to dive with them and then I started diving myself with them.
Maar jy weet, daar's baie mense wat jou gaan kwaadlik neem en jy weet, en baie mense wat waarskynlik na jou gaan kyk en sê, ja, dit is 'n smokkelaar om verskeie redes. Maar dit is 'n moeilike besluit om te neem en wat jy ook in die boek sê is, dit was vir jou baie moeilik om te doen. Maar jy het 'n gesin gehad om te onderhou. En dikwels is mense omstandighede van so 'n aard dat jy half gedwing word om sekere goed te doen. Jy besef nie eintlik eers waarmee jy besig is nie.
Look, basically every family man has to feed his family, and I'm not promoting crime here or telling people go and commit a crime to feed your family. And that, I have just as much respect for the guy begging at the robot, also trying to feed his family. But this is abalone poaching. It's not for everybody. Nobody can just say, "I'm going to buy me some diving equipment tomorrow, I'm going to dive abalone." It takes a certain type of person to actually go into that. Number one is the danger of the sea and the risk of being arrested.
Now, just a few facts, briefly, just a few facts. How many people do you think are involved in this industry of illegal poaching of abalone?
Directly diving, I think a conservative estimate would be 1,000 or more, each with their own networks of carriers, drivers. People are working in cookhouses, cooking and drying abalone for poaching syndicates, and they're all supporting their families. There's mothers of poachers who are putting some perlemoen in the freezer for a few $100 a month. If you sort of take it at its outer limits and how many people are deriving an income from this illegal fishery, it's many thousands of people, and in some cases two generations of people. There's poachers who were poaching in the 90s who now have kids who've grown up and become poachers themselves. It's a very deeply embedded illicit economy that's that reaches far and wide, much further and much wider than I think we commonly acknowledge when we talk about these issues.
And how much money do you think is involved here?
Well, the price per kilogram right now is 550 rand a kilo, give or take. Abalone sells by the end of the supply chain in China for 7, 8, 9, 10,000 rand a kilogram, and that money is flowing back down the supply chain. So it's, in terms of our export fisheries in South Africa, there's estimates, pretty robust scientific estimates, placing our illegal abalone fishery as our third most valuable export fishery, after squid and hake, I believe. It's a massive industrialized fishery.
And the biggest market?
Well, all of this is going to China, or to the Chinese diaspora. Abalone's a status symbol in Cantonese cuisine. It has been for thousands of years, and with the growth of China's middle class in the last 20, 30 years, it's become an aspirational thing to be able to buy, to gift to someone, a way to show how much money you have. And wherever there are wealthy Chinese people in the world now, abalone is being eaten, much like champagne would be in the West.
In jou boek is daar so 'n halfe vergelyking tussen die dwelmhandel en die perlemoenhandel. En iewers het jy geskryf dat die fabrieke, die huisfabrieke waar die goed gemaak word, lyk omtrent dieselfde. En daar's 'n toneel in jou boek wat een van hierdie garages ontplof en dan is daar iemand wat so wat is die, jy weet, hoe is dit mense wat letterlik langs jou buurman kan dit in sy motorhuis besig wees om te droog en jy sal nie weet daarvan nie.
Look, drying houses are springing up all over. It can be your next door neighbor, it can be someone out on a farm, a small holding. You just don't know where it's happening. And I mean, those people also, the people who normally owns the properties, or maybe they're probably struggling to have their bond get paid. And then the syndicates come in and say, okay, listen here, we'll pay you X amount of money to use your property or your facility. And sometimes people just can't resist because it's big money.
I think an important point there, though, is that the divers getting the abalone out the water are many steps removed from any processing export. Shahud has, this was a question I asked him 5 times during work on the book, just to make sure. Like, what's it like being in a cookhouse? And every time he said, I've never been there. Many divers have never been that far up the chain because they sell the abalone to someone who sells it to someone who sells it to someone.
We would sell it, yeah. We'd sell it to a middleman, and it's the last we'd ever see of it. Yeah. We don't even know how it's get. Most divers has not seen what a dried abalone looks like.
And getting paid in cash, just to answer your drugs and cash, at the high end of the chain. You know, the syndicates really controlling this are linked to Cape gangs and have exchanged abalone for drug ingredients with Chinese mafia groups over the years. It doesn't happen as much now as it used to in the past, perhaps, but that's also happening far away from the labor of actually going into the sea often at night and scratching around for the shellfish. It's like your boss's boss is taking what you give him and swapping it for drugs sometimes.
Ek het soveel vrae nog, maar ek moet nou 'n laaste vraag vra. En ek dink die vraag is miskien aan jou, Kimon, en dit is baie mense sien dit, many people see this as a crisis, environmental crisis, but you've got an issue with that.
Well, look, abalone has declined substantially due to poaching. Areas where there used to be thick beds piled 3 deep, like, we don't have those anymore, and that's explicitly because of poaching. At the same time, we're living in an era of ecological crisis. Having the lights on in these studios, driving here in our cars, wearing diamonds on our fingers, have far bigger environmental impacts. So framing this as an environmental issue, to me, misses the point. I think what abalone poaching is an economic issue. It's a missed opportunity for economic development. This is an industry worth, like I said, millions and millions of dollars a year that's been channeled into the black market via dangerous gangs with big social harms, instead of being formalized, legalized, controlled, and perhaps used to uplift the fishing communities that ended up becoming labor pools for this fishery. So if we broaden our analysis here and don't just talk about it as an environmental crisis or poaching or crime, but look at the wider circumstances that bred this industry, then I think we have a more interesting conversation.
Ja, mens moet na die oorskaak gaan kyk en nie noodwendig al die simptome nie. Baie dankie dat julle ingekom het, Kimon Shahud.
Die boek wys asseblief.
Ek gaan jou ook nou vra om vir my asseblief die boek te teken.
Okay.
Dit is die voormalige perlemoensmokkelaar en ook Kimon de Greeff, die skrywers van Poacher. Hulle het vanaand dan die laaste sê hier by Nuusdag Perspektief. Ons groet, ons is môre aand 8:00 terug. Ek hoop dit is 'n wonderlike aand vir jou. Dankie vir die saamkyk en totsiens. Totsiens.